Today, we're pleased to welcome Jody Plows to the podcast. Jody's been CEO of the London-based womenswear brand Nobody's Child since 2019. Known for its affordable, on-trend designs, responsibly sourced fabrics and celebrity partnerships, Jody leads with a founder mentality and relaunched the brand in 2020 with a vision of bringing beautiful, eco-conscious fashion to women everywhere. Since then, she's steered the company towards incredible growth, which has seen revenues double year on year and become one of the fastest growing responsible brands in the UK. As well as upping the brand's sustainability credentials and digital reach, Jody is focused on the physical footprint, and from this month, the brand will be stocked in 170 stores, which makes me very happy because, as you know, I'm a huge fan of the brand. The international expansion has gathered momentum, and Nobody's Child can also be shopped in the UAE, US, and across Europe.
A very special welcome for me. It's fantastic to have you here. M&S is a significant investor in your business, and I remember when our then CEO, when there was a discussion about doing it, we were all very excited. So it's great to have you here. When you joined Nobody's Child, you obviously brought years of retail experience. We've touched on when we were both at Tesco. You were a really senior woman at Florence and Fred. I think it's F&F now. Also really amazing experience at River Island, New Look, and of course Reiss, when I think womenswear was really new and obviously really established brand now. Taking over an existing business, which I don't know whether people will know, but obviously Nobody's Child existed before in some form. How did you shake it up? And maybe talk to us a bit about where you've taken it from and to.
Thank you for that intro. It was very lovely to hear, and I feel really privileged to be here today. I think becoming the CEO of Nobody's Child was a real defining moment for me, and it was a personal shake-up moment because at that point I had been offered a big corporate role and Nobody's Child. And I decided to step out of the corporate world and do something different. And I had this opportunity to make a change and make an impact. And I went with that. Mm-hmm. So it was a huge step for me. And I've always felt really passionate about making positive change in this industry. And I feel very passionately about sustainability. So when I met Andrew Zenny, who's the founder, it was almost like the stars aligned. And he had set this brand up with the foundations and based on ethical manufacturing, ethical production, but at an affordable price point. And I just thought, well, there's loads of sustainable brands, but they were all really unattainable. So yes, you could get something responsible, but you had to pay a really high premium price for it. And what we set out to do together was to change that. We could see a gap in the market and we could offer something much more accessible and responsible to all women.
Amazing. It feels like a really exciting move, you know, when you could have gone in one direction. Bit of a sliding doors moment.
Yeah, I think it was a sliding doors moment. And I just knew at that moment that working with Andrew, we could embark on this journey and do something really special and different. I would say that it's been a huge amount of hard work, but the best 4 years of my career, hands down, what we've been delivering at Nobody's Child and just setting that vision and purpose early on. We set out, just as we went into a pandemic, which is a whole nother story, to reposition ourselves as a leading responsible retailer.
And what advice would you give to somebody if they were a CEO going into an existing brand?
I would say just immerse in the people, just understand your culture and understand the behaviours. Once you have the right people around you and you've set the right inclusive culture, I truly believe anything's possible. Like that's when the magic starts.
Did you have to do sort of a restructure in terms of the people when you went in?
There just wasn't many of us, to be honest. There was 12. So there was 12 people at that point. I was doing many hats, many roles. And I think that was really important for me to go on that journey and learn so many different functions because my background is product and merchandising. So I did a digital marketing course in the evening and just learned a lot about every other aspect of the business. And then we slowly grew, and now we're at around 80 people in head office.
How does that feel when you walk in? I mean, are you in the same office? Have you moved?
No, we were in a cupboard in Fitzrovia. And then we worked from home. So I said to my husband quite loosely one evening, there might be a bit of product coming to our house, and the whole lounge turned into a showroom. And that was through pretty much all of the lockdown. And we managed to build the brand from the house. We were going into a small office occasionally. And then we were really lucky to move into the Camden office. I think it's 2 years this April. And we took over one floor, and now we're across 3.
Brilliant.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so we sort of kept growing organically. I'm always really careful with how we approach. And I suppose you never really understand the true expectation of how fast it's going to grow and how you're going to keep up with that. And ultimately, we've wanted to do it sustainably. So each step is very considered. Each product area that we launch, we take the same approach to think about it really sustainably. And we're the same with people.
And you never quite know what is going on behind the scenes at a brand. I was just thinking, I came to discover Nobody's Child completely organically on Instagram during lockdown. And I think I wore your dresses, as you know, like almost every day throughout the pandemic. And little did I know that the stockroom was like in your front room at home.
How much harder has it made it to grow? Because how big has the range become? Because I remember when you first featured on the M&S site, it was a relatively narrow range, which may not have been the full range, and predominantly dresses. How big have you grown the range, and how have you managed to do that when you are doing it in a more sustainable way?
So we have some amazing suppliers that we've known in the ecosystem for many, many years. So Tom Singh, who's a key investor, Andrew Zenny, who's the founder, has a background in manufacturing, and I had a lot of contacts, and we asked for favours at the start. So these were suppliers that had been let down by other people in the pandemic, and they weren't set up to do small quantities, but they went on a journey with us to do something sustainable. So it's been really amazing because now they're growing with us, and I see them as partners. So I think that's one aspect which is really important. When I took over the brand, it was a dresses brand. It mainly printed dresses and gorgeous, and that's our DNA. That's still our hero product. And with each step, we've taken on a new product category area, and we take on our handwriting, our sustainability DNA, and then we launched very capsule collections, I would say. And even now, the volumes that we buy are still quite small compared to most of the high street. I mean, we now have some amazing retailers that we work with, and we're really successful with them. So yes, of course, the brand keeps growing, but we still just want to make sure that we execute our product in the best possible way. And to do that, it's not really about mass. It's more just about having the right product for our customer.
Now, you mentioned Tom Singh there, who was from New Look. You first met him during the course of your career there. And also David Rees, I know, was quite an inspiration to you, obviously from Rees. What sort of, were the biggest standouts that you learned from those visionaries that you've worked with in your career?
Yeah, I was very lucky to work with David. He was extremely hands-on when I was at Rees. So every product meeting, David would sit next to me and would be fully involved. He gave me the opportunity to be exposed to the whole running of a small business. And I truly believe that working at Rees, working for David, set me up for being CEO of Nobody's Child.
Yeah.
Just that the way that he viewed the business, and I learned how a business works bottom up. Yeah. So that was incredibly valuable. When it comes to Tom, he's the most visionary person I've ever known. I'm very blessed to know Tom. It's been almost 10 years. He founded New Look, and I worked for him there, and now he's a key investor in Nobody's Child. He's a product expert, a sourcing expert, and he has taught me to stretch myself in all situations and approach everything with strategic thinking. And he operates with a high level of emotional intelligence. So when you're exposed to that, you absolutely see things with a different lens. And then most importantly, Tom's reinforced how I do business. So treating everyone with respect and fostering long-term relationships. Yeah, I'm very fortunate to work for Tom.
When you were starting to do the CEO role, we all have things we love to do and things that are not our favourite within our role, but we know they're part of the role. What did you, when you were going into that broader role, think this is not the thing that I enjoy the most? And therefore, what did you have to kind of learn?
Oh my goodness, I've just loved everything about this brand. So it's really hard to pick something out. That I would just say that there isn't any. I've loved learning all different areas of this business. I now know how much I wanted breadth, and I didn't want to be pigeonholed. And I love product, and I will always gravitate towards product. And everybody has to pull me out of product meetings still, so I will always do that. But actually, all the other areas were the areas that stretched me, and I could really grow. I would say that we go through growing pains at Nobody's Child. And when we're going through, it's the best way to describe it. You sort of like, when you hit into it, you really feel the stretch. And the first time of going through that, it was new. It was quite new. It's different to anything you get in any corporate business. But at the same time, it's the most exciting thing. To be doing that and knowing what you're delivering.
You were saying earlier when we were having a little chat before we recorded about that leaning in.
Yeah.
That was such a good tip. Will you tell us about that again?
Yes. So what I say to my team that when we're going through the growing pains, and if you're tipping on feeling overwhelmed, which everybody gets to that point, I stop and tell myself that, I remind myself what I've been through personally and at work, and that in the struggle you become your strongest, and that's when you learn all your lessons. And I remind myself to lean into the feeling, and I find that if you lean into it, it doesn't feel as bad, and actually you can easily work your way through it. And my team tell me that helps them. I think when you're also feeling overwhelmed, I just feel like you need to take a step out of that moment sometimes as well. So you lean into the feeling, but then also snap yourself out of it and just do something else that brings you back to where you need to be. But ultimately, I'm an optimist. I believe that everything will work out, that you need to work really hard, and that optimism sits hand in hand with hard work, but that the future is bright. And that I tell my team that you need to be optimistic, because ultimately the world's difficult, the market's difficult, and it never goes to plan, ever. So that staying optimistic always gets you through.
I think when you're in food in particular, but fashion and clothing, I mean, I'm thinking about, you talked about the pandemic, which obviously must have been challenging. I think that is so true, because otherwise you could just get lost in the problems day to day. And when you've got stores and shops, you have other issues. So it must be really engaging for your team to kind of feed off that.
Yeah, I think that you have to take your team with you. Everyone faced into the pandemic, you're right. So you were all in that together. So we've kept that essence as we go through every challenge or problem. We're all in it together. I remind my team all the time that they've got this, and that if they need me to get stuck in, I will. But ultimately, they will learn and stretch if they face into things on their own as well. That's when you become your best version. But there's always a major issue, isn't there?
There is always, every day. I mean, that is retail. I think every day is a learning day as well, is how I see it. I wake up and think, what will happen today? When you were at Tesco, so it feels like you have an incredibly warm and supportive environment that you fostered. You did a lot of work in terms of encouraging flexibility for women. Tell us about that, and how did it come about?
So I have a look back, and I'm proud of lots of achievements, but most of those achievements will be around hitting numbers, growing something. And I think my proudest achievement is the flexible working that I managed to get into place when I was at F&F. I suppose to give it some context, I come from a single parent family, and we didn't have much. And I watched my mum work extremely hard and sacrifice a lot. And from a very early age, I was working part-time to try and help financially. And so I think that's where the essence of my strong work ethic comes from. And I'm very driven. So I always had a goal, I always manifested that I would have a family and a career. It was just something really important to me, and some form of balance. So when you fast forward, and I was at Tesco, and I strategically moved to Tesco to be near the children, because everyone went, you're crazy leaving Reese to go to Tesco. but I knew it would be the right thing to be closer to the children in Hertfordshire.
Yeah.
But when I looked around, all the women that were successful at that point 15 years ago had chosen not to have children, were married to the job, or they had a stay-at-home husband, none of which appealed to me. So I wanted to carve something different out. So after my second child, when I went back to Tesco, and although I'm very clear and assured about it now, I deliberated a lot, was absolutely terrified to propose it. I took a proposal to the board that I could do my job in 4 days, and they agreed to trial it. And they were actually very supportive. I just think no one else had actually asked for it at that level, was too worried to ask for it. I don't know. And it wasn't easy. So I think there was a struggle there for me. When I look back on those years, I'm very honest to mums that it's not easy when they're young. But I'm really proud that I made it work, and I left a legacy. And by the time I left, there were many women doing flexible working. And, it just wasn't offered before the pandemic like it is now. It's like, it's so amazing that working parents can have something more flexible, and that you can deliver your role, you can over-deliver your role and have children and continue to progress. I truly believe that career mums are super efficient people. And it gives you perspective having the children. If you want to have it all, you just make it work, and you have to be extremely disciplined. And I say my days are longer than most, but I love what I do. So most of the time it doesn't even feel like work, because I'm truly passionate about it. And if you'd asked me 10 years ago when they were little, I would tell you I was worried how it was going to impact them. I was worried if they'd resent me for it. And now they tell me they're very proud. And so it's worked out. But you have moments of doubt, I would say.
We've talked a bit about the shape of the working day, and what you've also said is you took a decision not to stay or go to a big corporate job. You went on almost to be a founder. And obviously the pressures about what you can offer are sometimes different when you're a small business starting out. So have you managed to take that flexibility to Nobody's Child for the team? And has that been difficult, particularly as you've scaled?
Yes, I absolutely have taken it there. So we have a hybrid working pattern, which I think is pretty market-facing now. And we're very agile. I think being agile and embracing change is our superpower. We grew in a pandemic, so we proved that we could work in that way. We have to remember we're a product brand though, so we need to be together and be with product, and I truly believe culturally it's good to be together.
And how do you drive this sort of culture of positivity? What are some of the key things that you do internally?
So someone from the team was saying this to me last week, so I'm going to repeat it back because I just thought it was so wonderful. They said to me, Nobody's Child isn't just a brand, it's a community based on strong shared values and a commitment to excellence, which I thought was really lovely, because they're absolutely right. I mean, that sums it up. We support one another, and also on a day-to-day, everybody feels like other people would step in if they needed that support. So it fosters inclusivity and drives positivity for sure. We celebrate the small wins as well as the big. I would say that's really important to us. So we're constantly celebrating each other.
Talk to us a bit about sustainability. So I know it's part of what I do at M&S. It's really hard to communicate to customers in a really simple way, because obviously a lot of what goes on to make something in a more sustainable way is quite complex. How do you do it at Nobody's Child, and how do you try and talk to your customers about it?
Yes, so quite simply, our ethos is that we are just trying to do our best and make a better decision. So when I took over the brand, we really focused on the material choice. So because it's such an important decision in the impact of a garment. So depending on what material you choose, has an impact on water, carbon, chemicals, and just an overall impact on the planet. So I'm really proud that 95% of all of our products are certified sustainable, if you like. But more recently, we've taken on a much bigger project, which we've just piloted with Fern, which is our digital product passport. So this is our journey of like transparency and traceability. So each garment has a QR code, and as you scan in, that gives you all the detail, like a wealth of information of the product. So the material choice, manufacturing process, carbon impact of a garment, and also aftercare, so the circularity. So it's been a huge piece of work. It's absolutely massive. And when we took it on, I was quite confident that we were really transparent and traceable, but it opened up loads of different bits of information of things that we could do better with our suppliers. So we partner with all our suppliers to do it. And we're really the only sort of brand at our level that is piloting a digital product passport. But it is coming, the wave is coming. We're all going to have this level of transparency. But yeah, we're really proud of that. So that launched last week on the Fern collection. And by the end of the year, we'll roll that out across a couple of product areas. It's been a massive piece of work that we've done across the brands. It's been amazing.
But it has bigger than you thought, or?
More work than I actually anticipated for all of us, but everybody, all of the team have been behind it. Everybody's really dedicated for us to be a leader in this space. Yeah. So I think we just know the more traceable and transparent you are, the better decisions you will make, the more the customer understands about the sustainability of a garment. And it's not easy. Like you said, the landscape of sustainability is not easy, and I'm constantly learning about things we could be doing differently. And we always say we're not perfect, we're on a journey, but this is a big step forward for us.
Obviously, you are now a CEO, which is a big job, not always a popular job. How do you balance the need to be the boss, and presumably, even if it's small decisions, sometimes you have to take tough decisions, and being who you are, which is clearly a really kind of lovely, warm person. And also, with that comes everyone has an intrinsic desire to be liked. And how do you manage that?
I love this question. So when I was at Tesco and we were on a leadership course, we did a personality questionnaire, I think. And I was a classic textbook prover pleaser. So what a prover pleaser is. And at that moment, I was like, oh, that makes sense. I constantly wanted to prove myself to everybody, very determined, goals orientated, in the nicest possible way, but I just knew what I wanted, where I wanted to get to. And then the pleaser part was, I just always wanted people to like me. And I said yes to everything. And so I think that got me so far. In fact, it put me in good stead in my career. But it's pretty exhausting trying to please everybody. And I think at that moment, I realised that not everybody can like you. And it's not actually that important if they do. And so as I became more of a senior leader and then stepping into CEO, I now truly believe that being trusted and respected is the most important thing. That your team understand that you are fair, that you have their backs, and they trust all the decisions that you're making. So yeah, it's nice to be liked, but it's not everything.
How do you manage to still bring yourself to work? Because it's one of the things I think about, which is, I like people, as in I like to talk to people. I don't want to be hierarchical, but sometimes you then have to make a decision. And I think that can be confusing for people who work with you. But how do you still bring that personality in yourself?
I describe to people that at Nobody's Child, we work high-low, and that should go all the way through the business to prevent too much hierarchical thinking. So 1 minute you could be doing a 3-year strategy, and the next minute you could be cleaning the windows. And that runs all the way through the business. So I could be having a board meeting one day, but steaming clothes at our store the next with the team, in the trenches with them. And ultimately, the bigger we get, the less I can do that. But I do think it's important to bring that, because that's what keeps everybody aligned and swimming in the same direction.
And you obviously seem like a very inspirational leader, and I'm sure that you have a great relationship with your team, but who inspires you?
So there are many inspirational leaders, but I would say that my team inspire me daily. So with their energy, and also Andrew Zenny inspires me. So he's the founder of the brand and the most entrepreneurial person I've ever met. It's infectious. And he's one of the good ones.
What a great place to finish
How
the
lovely.
interview.
Yeah.
I think you're one of the good ones.
You are. You're so lovely, honestly.
I thought what was really amazing was this sense of treading softly as a leader, but obviously having a big impact, which she sort of didn't articulate saying that was her style, but you could just feel it.
Yeah.
But also I thought some real similarities to some of the other amazing founders we've spoken to. High drive.
Yeah.
Not always had lots.
Yes.
And that kind of prover pleaser. I mean, I have to say, I think Tesco liked hiring prover pleasers. I think retail does. I think it's a great combination to
it is a good
really
combo.
deliver operationally. I'm pretty sure that was what my kind of segment said too. But a really amazing achievement. And also I thought what was lovely was 2 male leaders that have been her inspiration.
Yeah.
And I think that's really nice, not for it to feel like it has to be a gender role model, that actually you can just have a role model.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. And also I loved what Jody was talking about, the high and low aspects of the role, you know, that it's really important. I know this is key at M&S as well, when you all go and work in stores, to be steaming clothes one day and working on sort of the brand strategy the next.
And that's what you need.
Oh, and to understand every part of the process.
Totally.
You know, at the end of the day, they're a product-led company. So if you're not engaging with the product on that level daily, it'd be very hard to run.
Very, very engaging and gregarious and sort of energising.
Yeah.
We'll have to go to Camden.
Definitely, let's do that. I can relive my youth in Camden and visit Nobody's Child in the process.